back to the Vent Haven Convention. Today on Talk for Two. Hey guys, Matt Bailey here, and I want to give a quick shout out to our season sponsors, Axtel Expressions and the Tangent Bound Network, before we begin. You'll hear more about them at the end of the show, as you always do. Now, today we're doing something we've never done in Talk for Two history. We're presenting 2 interviews from the Vent Haven Convention. We got Peter Dzubay, a 15-year-old ventriloquism prodigy whose legendary Vent Haven 2013 performance proved he has a fantastic future ahead of him. And John Byrd, a retired Army veteran who found his love for ventriloquism once again. That's right, he got into it when he was a kid like many of us and got out of it when he had to put it away after entering the Virginia Military Institute. Now, we begin with John Byrd. All right, we're back here at the Vent Haven Convention, and I'm sitting next to John Byrd. How are you today, sir?
I'm great. How are you, Matt?
I'm great. Thank you for signing up. Thank you for wanting to do this. How'd you get started in Vent?
Well, when I was growing up, I used to watch Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney on television. And for my 10th birthday, my parents gave me Paul Winchell's book, Ventriloquism for Fun and Profit.
Yeah.
And I devoured it from cover to cover, and it explained how to talk without moving your lips, explained how to build a dummy, it gave you several routines. And so by the time Christmas came around, my parents gave me a Jerry Mahoney, and so I was ready to go. So I started doing shows in elementary school, and back in the old days they called it junior high school instead of middle school, and high school, did a few things, and was in a couple of talent shows in high school. I always came in first runner-up, never won the whole thing.
Let me guess, a singer.
Well, actually, yes. I remember the senior year, the guy dressed up like a woman and played a banjo and sort of old country sort of thing. And
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, you mentioned Jerry Mahoney. Before we get to your first shows, no, wait a minute. Do you want to save this story for a little bit later, or how do you want to do this?
Well, I'll go ahead and tell it now.
All right. You mentioned Jerry Mahoney earlier, and there's a story with a Jerry Mahoney doll that you had from
right.
childhood.
Well, I performed up through high school, and after high school, I went to Virginia Military Institute, and Jerry got packed away, and I didn't do anything while I was in college. And I met my wife while I was going to college, and it really never came up that I was a ventriloquist. So she didn't know I was a ventriloquist. So when we got out of the Army, we were moving, and I wanted to get the little things out of the way and move the big furniture in the house. So I laid Jerry in the driveway. I didn't know that she was going to go shopping.
Yeah.
And so she backed over Jerry's head with the car. And I was devastated. And since she didn't know I was a ventriloquist, she couldn't understand what the big deal was, why I was upset about this. So I tease her all the time about killing Jerry. And she says, well, what kind of fool would lay Jerry in the driveway in the first place? So she always gets the last word in on that. But anyway, I kept Jerry for years, and finally I decided I'd throw him away. And now I know people who could have fixed him.
Yeah.
And so I regret never throwing him away. One of these days I'll get another Jerry, maybe. But anyway.
Well, when the character has that kind of sentimental value to it,
it's
tough.
And for years I didn't know where to get another dummy. So about 1990 I started looking on the internet. And I Googled ventriloquism, and I found a whole bunch of places where you could buy dummies.
Yeah.
And so I...
Well, I read that on your site, not knowing, and I think that's important to our listeners. It was one of the things when I got started. Now, where in the world do you get these contraptions, these unique things? And that kept you from doing the art form for many years. Right.
That's exactly right. And I didn't know where to go. But when I saw these sites, I was just enthralled, and I studied them for hours at a time, and tried to figure. And I finally bought one from Mayer Studios, and I got it, and it was a small 32-inch figure, and I just didn't like it. And I called Clinton Detweiler, and I said, I really just don't like this. And he said, well, send it back. We'll give you credit for that, and you can order whatever you want.
Nice.
So I'm debating, trying to figure out, and I told my kids, and they said, well, you ought to get the best, whatever you want, get it. Mm-hmm. So I ordered a 40-inch with moving eyes and flapping ears and,
wow.
The whole deal, raising eyebrows and everything that I wanted. So, and Clinton was great, about accepting my return, giving me credit, sending it back, and give me the new one, and all that sort of thing. So that was the first one that I got as an adult, mm-hmm. and so that was really neat. Then, of course, then I found out about the convention, and I came here and went in the dealer's room and went, oh my gosh, I can see all these things that I've seen online,
yeah.
and I can pick them up and see how it works and how smooth they are or how not smooth they are.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
What was your first convention?
I think it was 2004.
Oh, cool.
I remember it was awesome. I had become a Jeff Dunham fan
mm-hmm.
At the time, and I used to watch his little videos that were online. They were real short, clip of Peanut and clip of Walter, and he had a clip of the Hertz commercial.
Yeah.
And so I watched those over and over and studied his manipulation and his reaction and just, over and over. So I became a fan, and the first convention, I walked in the lobby, and there's Jeff Dunham standing there and said, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then to see all the other great ventriloquists around, Jimmy Nelson and
that's incredible.
everybody. I used to watch him when I was growing up, and so It's just fantastic, to be able to come here and see the dummies and see the great ventriloquists. And
it really is. And you perform quite a bit. You perform schools, churches, retirement homes,
right.
civic clubs, all these cool places. Well, talk about it.
Well,
no questions. Just
okay. Yeah, sure. Retirement homes. I like going there, but I've had this happen to me a lot of times. I'll be doing a show and nobody's laughing. They might be a chuckle every once in a while, but nobody's laughing. And I get kind of nervous, and I start to speed up, and I say to myself, now slow down, At worst, you can pretend like this is practice. And so then I finish the show, and all these people come up to me and say, wow, you were really funny. That was great. I enjoyed it. And I'm thinking, well, these people must be laughing to themselves on the inside or something like that. And then I was at a senior show one day, and this man came up to me, and he said, it must be great to know that you can go anywhere and make people laugh and brighten their day. And I thought, wow, yeah, that is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So, that was kind of neat. Kids shows, I love kids shows. They laugh at everything. Mm-hmm. And so that's just awesome. And sometimes the younger kids, laugh too much, and I can't get my next line out because they're laughing so hard. So that's a lot of fun. I did have I did a couple shows for Alzheimer's units in
asked about that specifically.
In retirement homes, and Alzheimer's is a terrible disease.
Oh my God, yeah.
And my aunt had it, and it's awful. And I don't mean to make light of it, but I found that these audiences had a great sense of humor, and they mm-hmm. laughed at the things that I did. But some of the incidents were really funny. Mm-hmm. Like I had a volunteer, and I had a lady come up, and a little bit later on in the show, I had ask for another volunteer, and she raised her hand. I said, "Oh, would you like to come up here again?" And she said, "Have I been up there before?" And then I had I did the tape over the mouth, Bill DeMar's tape over the mouth routine. Mm-hmm. And I had a lady, an Alzheimer's patient, come up, and the dummy told her to take the tape and tear off a piece and put it over his mouth. Mm-hmm. And she starts to put it over the dummy's mouth. And the dummy kept saying, no, his mouth. And she looked all confused. And then she finally turned to the dummy and said, "Would you make up your mind?" So,
Yeah.
And so those were funny things, but they still laughed and got the jokes. And
how would they? I'm curious to know, how would the other audience members respond to a funny situation that came out of somebody having that disease? Would they laugh at it, or would they Was it more cringeworthy?
Well, I didn't mean to make fun of them, but I thought it was funny the way they reacted.
of course, yeah.
And
It's in the moment.
It was, yeah, and my daughter was with me videotaping, and she was really laughing at it. I had a backdrop up there, and before the show started, one lady kept saying, "Wonder what's behind the backdrop? Wonder what's back there?" This other lady said, "Oh, I bet it's Santa Claus." And they were just having a good time.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed performing for them, and I like I say, I don't mean to belittle or make fun of them, but it was really interesting and somewhat comical the way they reacted.
Yeah.
And they enjoyed the show too.
Yes. And you also got to perform, and you were selected as Senior Idol of Greater Richmond.
Yes, that was fantastic. Last year, I entered this contest, and everybody else was a singer, and I was a ventriloquist, and I didn't know quite how it would go over. And there were over 500 people in the audience, and I came out, I was a little bit nervous, but right away it was like the audience identified with me, and they laughed at everything that I did. I mean, I've done this routine like hundreds of times, and I know where people typically laugh and where they don't. This audience laughed at everything.
Yeah.
And I just felt an instant connection, and I started feeding off their energy. And when I finished, I thought, well, this is great. I'm really pleased with the way it went. I'm sky high. I'm really pleased. I've done all I can do. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. I'm just really happy. And so then at the end, they had three of us step forward, and they said, okay, now the second runner-up is, and I'm listening for my name, and I didn't hear it. And they said, okay, now the first runner-up is, and I'm listening for my name, and I didn't hear it. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute, I'm the only one left. So then they said, and the winner is John Byrd. And that was really pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
And I got to represent the group that put on the show the whole next year until they selected another one. So
That's awesome.
every function I got to perform, for them. So that was neat.
That's really cool. You were in the service, correct?
Yes.
What branch?
I was in the Army. Well, I was in the Navy and the Army. I joined the Navy in high school and went to boot camp and all that sort of thing. And then I went to Virginia Military Institute, and I couldn't go to meetings during the week, so every summer I had to do a 30-day cruise in the Navy. And then when I started advanced ROTC my junior year, the Navy wouldn't let me go unless the Army would accept me, and the Army wouldn't accept me unless the Navy would release me. So I had a bureaucratic standoff, and so finally the Navy gave me an honorable discharge for the convenience of the government.
Yes.
So I went on active duty in the Army and stayed there for 2 years at Fort Knox, and then I retired from Army Reserve with about 26 years of service.
So I got to thank you for that. Did you ever perform on any of the bases?
I really didn't, but one of my VMI brotherettes, classmates, hired me to do a show, and when he introduced me, he explained to everybody that at VMI we had to march everywhere we went, and we were not allowed to talk in ranks. And then he told the audience that since John's a ventriloquist, he made it seem like other guys were talking in ranks. So that's a funny story. It's not true, but kind of funny story.
That's great. Well, I got to ask before we head out here, what do you want to see from ventriloquists? We're at the convention. There's this great generation that I'm a part of, events coming up now. What do you want to see for ventriloquism?
I'd like to see it expand and grow and grow and grow. Some really great young kids are coming up, and I'm impressed pretty much every year about what they can do. It's really, I think a fantastic art.
It is.
And I would love to see it become more acceptable.
Yeah.
Like I say, when I was in the contest for Senior Idol, I thought, well, everybody else is a singer. I wasn't sure how I would come across as a ventriloquist. But it worked out okay in that case.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I love it when ventriloquism wins over the singers.
Yes, yes.
Well, keep doing what you're doing. I'm excited that now that you're retired from the Army that you're doing this. I think that's great. So.
Yeah, I plan to keep on having fun as long as I can.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. John. All right.
Thank you again very, very much, John. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your service. Thank you so much for serving our country. And now it's time for my interview with a young man I know you are all going to be impressed by. In fact, Tom Ladshaw was so impressed by this young man, he asked him to open the 2015 Double Talk post-convention show, which you know is open to the public and was headlined this year by Lynn Trevsger. Here now, our interview with 15-year-old Peter Dzubay. All right, Talk for Two listeners, we are here again at the Vent Haven Convention. If you hear some ruckus coming, starting up, it's about 10 o'clock here, so that means Bob Hamill and the hospitality guys get to start at it. But I am here with an incredibly talented gentleman who should not go into the hospitality room for at least a couple more years. Peter Dzubay, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's so great to be here.
It is so fantastic to have you. I'm so glad. I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but you just performed today and you signed up to come on tonight, so I got a chance to see you perform again. It's actually been 2 years. I missed the junior last year. So I didn't see you since you were 13 and you're 15 now. Yeah, so how do you think it went today?
I think it was good.
Yeah, that's great. I really enjoy Alfonso. How'd you come up with him? He's such a unique character.
Well, I was inspired by Jim Henson and the Muppets, so I was trying to build a puppet, and I had built a few before him. So I came across just a pair of jeans that I could cut up, and I made that into Alfonso.
That's great. Speak up just a little. We're working off of one mic here, so it's no problem, and I can maybe turn the gain up here just a little. I love these Rode things because they are very much go as you go, and yep, get that. Oh, that is up. All right.
Okay.
Fantastic. Now, how'd you get started in Vent?
Well, I was inspired by Jim Henson and the Muppets, as I had said.
Yeah.
So I started building puppets, and from there I was studying puppetry, and it just turned into ventriloquism. It was just kind of natural for me to transition from puppetry into ventriloquism.
That's great.
So.
That's awesome. When did you decide to learn the technique?
I mean, I just kind of picked it up naturally, and then there were, like, certain sounds that I had to just work at to try to get it to sound right.
Yeah.
Like, the first, big cover song that I did it on YouTube. It was Build Me Up Buttercup, which
Yeah.
is a lot of bees.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
I was just practicing that over and over until I got it to sound right.
That's fantastic. Were you a singer before you were a Vent puppeteer?
Yeah, I've been singing and, doing music my whole life.
Yeah, and I have to tell this story, and I have to embarrass him a little bit, because the first time I saw him perform, I think you won. You had to have won. 2013. You won, right? In 2013?
Oh, the junior...
Yeah, you
yes.
won the junior open mic, and...
no, I think last year was my...
No, it wasn't. It was 2013.
2013.
Yeah. And you won because they didn't have your music up, right?
Yes.
And you did your ukulele bit, and you and Alfonso can't do the thing with your arm. I'm doing it right now, people, but look it up on YouTube. I think it's up there. And you just killed the crowd with improv. And I came up to you, and I said, Peter, I want to have you on the show. And this is 2 years ago. And for guests that are like, hey, and I say, hey, I want to have you on the, and I haven't gotten to you yet. I said this to him 2 years ago. I said, because I got to know, how long have you been performing? And he goes, I've been doing that for about 2 years. I said, no. I said, how long have you been performing? And so, when did you start performing?
I've really just been singing and dancing and just doing whatever I can on stage my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's really just as long as I can remember, I've just loved it.
That's great. And it's, where do you want to go with it? Because you have a future. I mean, you have a voice, and it's interesting because it's maintaining through the change. Like I said, 2 years ago it was a higher register, and they brought that up today after the open mic, and you still have a fantastic voice, even though it's lowering for you. Where do you want to go with it?
I don't know. I mean, I've been writing music recently, so that's something I want to explore more. I've been considering writing music from a puppet's perspective, which might be
cool.
different.
So that was an original song today?
No, that was actually a They Might Be Giants cover.
Oh, cool. Oh, very cool. I didn't know, because it fit so well.
It just seemed to fit Alfonso's character.
What? Do you have in your head an idea of what, because this seems to be a running gag whenever I see videos with Alfonso. Do you have an idea in your head of what he is?
No one does. Not Alfonso.
Not even you. And I think it's great. I think we had Paul Zerdin on at one point, and he said, I don't care about character development. I just want to be funny. So it's I like the ambiguity. So, what other characters do you have? I've only seen you work with Alfonso.
So I have Alfonso, and then I have an Axtel who I got with the Terry Fader Scholarship a few years ago. Terry is what I named him after Terry.
Oh, nice.
So he has a higher voice. He's like a younger boy puppet, and he's like squeaky and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a dragon with a deep voice. He's a Marianne Taylor, and he's pink, and he's really like friendly, but his character is really like depressed, which makes an interesting character since he's so like upbeat and pink when you look at him, but then he's really sad all the time.
Oh, that's a great contrast, and it's great that you're thinking like that. Going to that thought process, how do you build a routine?
So a lot of times I'll write it around the song, so I'll find a
Yeah.
song that tends to fit their personality, because their personalities are what I'm always thinking about and what I'm always focused on. So I'll take that and I'll write a scene around it, and it'll usually just be like situational. Like I'll put them in. Actually, the double talk that I'm going to be doing this Sunday.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I wrote that around "Ain't It Fun" by Paramore, which is about living in the real world. So I put my characters like they move into their own apartment, and then they talk about that. So
That's really cool. So are you? We talked this morning, and you said they didn't tell you nothing about it. They just said, "Will you do it?" And you said yes. Who?
they gave me a time. And that's,
Who contacted you?
Tom Latcha reached out to me.
Oh, cool.
So.
Did he talk about seeing you at the convention, or how he found you? How did he think of you? Because that's great. I like to see kids like you getting to do it.
I mean, I don't know. I think he had seen me doing the open mics and everything, and on YouTube. So
That's really cool. I'm excited. What you said they gave you a time? What they give you? What time?
5 to 7 minutes.
Oh,
So
great. Are you at the front? You're opening?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, we'll find that out Sunday. Yeah, we always drive home on those days and on Sundays, so we've never gotten to see Double Talk. And one year I wanted to go, it was in September, but when I saw your name, I was like, yes! So that's great. Back to that question, you were talking about songwriting earlier. Is there a place for Vent in that? Do you think you'll always perform Vent, or do you think you'll, for lack of a better term, I hate to say it, but grow out of it into other areas?
I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking a lot about music and writing music and performing music. But I always feel like in shows I should try to incorporate what I can do. So I always try to include ventriloquism, and I always do. Just include ventriloquism in whatever I can do.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Terry earlier. Who are some other of your favorite Vents?
Favorite vents? Tom Crowell is definitely a big influence on me because I took his course online.
Yeah.
And that was great. It definitely improved like my fundamentals. Like it made consonants that were harder to say a lot more clear.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many people. Dan Horn I really look up to and his manipulation skill.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Dunham's like writing that he has in his character developments are
Mm-hmm.
really inspiring to me.
That's awesome. It's like I said, I love to talk to youth like you, because on the show we get to talk to a lot of people who have done it or who have done it and then gotten away from it and do it again. But to get somebody at 15 years old who is just, I swear, going to kill it is just awesome. And, I know that you're very shy and very quiet now, but I think you're going to, in the stages where you shine, but you're going to realize how good you are at one point, and it's just going to take off. And Mom and Dad, don't you agree?
Sure, yeah, woo!
Mom is reading a book. Dad is taking notes. He's
Drawing pictures.
Oh, drawing pictures. What do you do for a living?
Not an artist.
This is getting weird up in here. Supportive parents? Incredibly.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
assume. Yeah. How'd you hear about the convention?
I don't know. I think that I had seen the documentary that was on it that came out years ago.
You know Brian. Oh, you know Brian's here. I'm no dummy. This is the
Yes.
other one that's here, but you might be talking about Dumbstruck.
Yeah, I think it was Dumbstruck that I saw first, and then I looked into it, and I just thought that it was so amazing. And then I was looking at photos of the museum, and I was just like blown away. But in person, it's even more incredible, which
It is.
didn't seem possible. Yeah.
Was your Terry Fader scholarship your first year?
Yes.
Yes, so that's great. And like Chris, who has been assisting the entire time, I keep pointing like you people can see. Like Chris, who's been with me for the interviews the entire time, you've been coming ever since. What hooked you? What about this place?
Just everything about Vent Haven, the convention, it's amazing, everything. And everyone here is so nice and so friendly, and I always learn so much just from getting to talk to everyone and going to all the lectures.
Yeah, I missed quite a few lectures because I'm running here and doing different things for different people, and we're doing the open mic tomorrow night, and so Chris and Megan and I were in here rehearsing. We missed the lecture, so I know I missed a chunk, but I still feel like I walk away with so much
There's
just by being in this environment. It's awesome. What events do you look forward to the most?
About the convention?
Yeah, what lectures or workshops or anything?
I don't know. I really like all of it just because you never know what to expect with any of it. And I also really like watching the performances because I watch it like both being entertained and learning from it because like I can see how I can improve my act from what I experience.
What's one thing you've learned so far? We've been here a day and a half now.
I've been really focused on character manipulation because I a lot of times will tend to like be still and everything.
Well, you're focusing on so much. You're focusing on the lip control, which you're great at. You're focusing on your voice, which you obviously, I'm sure you've been complimented many, many times. And you're focusing on the routine, what you got to do. And so.
And I'm also like, content is a lot of, that's always hard. That's, I'd say, the hardest part of ventriloquism.
Yeah.
And like, you never have people say, wow, you wrote a good script. It's like, you talk without moving your lips. You know, like, once you get to a certain point, that just kind of comes.
Yeah. It's great. Like I said, I'm excited to see what you do. I always like to ask the older vets, what do you want to see from the younger generation? And now that I get to talk to people from this younger generation, I modify that question a little bit. What do you want to see for yourself in this art form 5-10 years from now?
I'd like to just keep seeing it expanding. I see so many new kids here each year, it's fantastic. Because it's definitely different and it's not something that, you know, a lot of people are interested, but it's definitely gaining a lot of interest. So if it could just keep expanding and growing and staying alive as an art form, it's great.
That's fantastic. Well, Peter Dzubay, I swear, guys, look him up. Maybe I'll link through to some YouTube videos when I edit this together. Watch him and watch out for him. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
My thanks again to Peter. Continued success to you, good sir. You know you are one of my favorite young ventriloquists working today, so I really, really wish you all the best. Now, next week, we're back at the convention again with convention stage manager Dave Carr. In the meantime, head over to talk4, spellout2.com for even more Talk for Two. Check out some of the awesome stuff we have for you in the talk shop. We are now shipping our new DVD, Ventriloquism for Comedy Clubs. We did that with Pete Michaels. If you want to work comedy clubs as a vent, get this. Plus, we are taking orders for our very first official podcast t-shirt, Tell the World You Talk for Two. A thank you to our season sponsors, the Tangent Bound Network. They are our servers and the reason you can find every single one of our episodes going back all the way over 2 years ago now to the beginning of July 2013. And I want to thank our season's entertainment sponsor, Axtell Expressions. Of course, I don't think there's a soul in this business who doesn't know who Steve Axtell is, and he creates some of the coolest characters available. Head over to axtell.com and check it out, and always plugging the sit stand. And before we go, I want to take a little bit of time to pitch to you the sit stand. In fact, I want to get Steve and Christopher Weed back on here. Chris has never done the show, but Steve has, to talk about the sit stand. Now, one of the things we hear about the sit stand is it's a little heavier. It's a couple pounds, but it still fits in your backpack. I love that it's heavy duty. I think that when we have just the light tabletop, sometimes that's great. And sometimes that really does us a disservice. As you know, the sit stand has a footrest on it. And I love that footrest because that makes the puppet look better and aids in your control of the puppet. Well, control of the puppet, especially soft figures, is nothing if the stand is tipping left and tipping right because the tabletop itself is too light. Magicians have fantastic tables that weigh 30, 40 pounds that are wonderful and wonderfully well made and are that heavy because they're wonderfully well made. In fact, Chris makes the Leffler table is the one I'm referencing to. That's about between 20 and 30 pounds without props in it. We deserve something as good a quality as the magicians have. So those of you that are wondering about the weight and how heavy it is, and yeah, it's kind of a system, that is a benefit because it's going to mean you do not have to worry about your arm being the reason that the table topper tips over, because we made it and it's wonderful quality. I wanted to address that as something we heard at Van Haven and something that amongst ourselves as designers we've been talking about a little bit. And I love that it's only 8 pounds. It's not enormously heavy, but when you're used to dragging something that doesn't even weigh half a pound, a little thing with fringe on it, not that there's anything wrong with those, this is significantly heavier proportionately, but it's definitely proportionately better as well, and it really aids in it. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the sit stand here at the end as we do some of our housekeeping. So head over to axtel.com and we link through it at talk number 4, spellout2.com, and that's the only website and the only way to reach us that you need that number for. I got to make that clear, because when you reach out by emailing talkfor2cast, that's TALKFORTWOCAST @gmail.com, and find our group or like us on Facebook by searching for Talk for Two, FOR. All right? Tweet us and about us using @ and hashtag Talk4Two, TALKFORTWO. Signing off for Talk for Two, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding all you vents out there to keep talking for two. See you next time.